The story begins with a heavy burden. His mother stares him down like he's a sacrifice, forcing him to become a shaman, claiming it's the will of the gods. Obscure spells are forced into his mind, but he clutches his chest and grits his teeth, rejecting this manipulated destiny with every fiber of his being. Just as he thinks he seized control, reality deals a fatal blow. A car accident in the pouring rain steals his warmth and abruptly ends his rebellion. He expects the end, but instead of eternal darkness, a blinding light erupts. He has been reborn, his memories fully intact. The absurdity leaves him stunned. Lying in a strange bed, staring at his hands, he's unsure how to navigate this unexpected second chance at life. The scene shifts sharply. The confused boy is gone, replaced by an authoritative figure slamming a book onto the lectern to command the room. Class will begin. That's right, he's now a professor at a magic academy. But how he landed this prestigious position is a long, thrilling story. Rewind to the present. A massive steam train hisses into the snowy imperial capital. The platform bustles with people, unaware of the undercurrents beneath the surface. The conductor smiles as he checks tickets. Everything seems routine, but beneath this calm facade, a crisis is quietly brewing. Using the alias Gerard, he moves purposefully down the narrow corridor, stopping at cabin 403 to tap lightly on the door. The door slides open to reveal a silver-haired gentleman. Those strangers, they greet each other with the polite familiarity of old friends. With a long whistle, the steel beast accelerates, the rhythmic clunk of wheels on tracks echoing with power as the journey begins. As the train cuts through snowy mountains, silence reigns inside. He quietly observes the man across from him, the air thick with subtle probing. The man lowers his newspaper, the headline announcing the end of a civil war. Staring at the words, he lets out a heavy breath of relief. He remarks that the war is finally over, ending the forced conscription. The protagonist listens quietly, a hint of deeper meaning flashing in his eyes. The black-haired young man enthusiastically introduces himself as Ludger, while the protagonist, the silver-haired man, coolly offers his alias, Gerard. The real Ludger mentions he's off to teach at Siren Academy. Landing a job at the Empire's top institution proves he's no ordinary scholar. Praised for his success, Ludger actually blushes, scratching his head and humble bragging that it was just lucky. Truly modest soul. The conversation shifts. Ludger brings up a battlefield legend. Rumor has it the war wasn't won by the army, but by a mysterious mercenary named Machiavelli. Seeing Ludger's curiosity, the protagonist smirks and drops a bombshell in a low voice. That legendary Machiavelli? That was actually me. The real Professor Ludger is in high spirits, chatting about his upcoming tenure at Siren Academy, his face glowing with anticipation. The protagonist pauses, surprised to hear he's starting with second year's a tough gig, but the professor seems blissfully unaware. The professor barely gets a word out before a deafening explosion erupts from the next carriage, cutting him off instantly. The violent impact sends them flying, shaking the carriage violently and shattering their casual conversation in an instant. This is no ordinary malfunction. They regain their balance, realizing this magically protected train is under active attack. If they breach the hull, they have mages. The professor panics but tries to lead, while the protagonist immediately opens a window to assess the situation. Their carriage, car 4, is eerily empty. Other passengers are either hiding in cabins or already in trouble. The silence is suffocating. The protagonist's mind races. If he were a bandit, he'd hit the wealthy first class first. The silence here feels wrong. Just as they think they're safe, a shadow swings past the window. Before he can finish speaking, an assassin crashes through the glass. Glass shatters everywhere. The professor stumbles back in terror, while the protagonist reacts instantly, stepping in to block the attack. The assassin lunges without a word, blade aiming for the kill. The protagonist parries with his cane, barely blocking the lethal strike. Dropping the act, the protagonist unleashes a burst of blue lightning magic, blasting the assassin backward instantly. The assassin collapses, paralyzed but alive. While the professor is still in shock, the protagonist approaches calmly to interrogate the threat. The protagonist steps on the assassin's back, his gaze ice-cold. "Tell me, why attack this train?" But the assassin is a lunatic. Instead of begging, he laughs maniacally, eyes bloodshot. "Filthy bastards, like you all deserve to die." The protagonist rips open the assassin's vest, revealing a ticking bomb. There's absolutely no time to react. "Get away!" With a desperate scream, the bomb detonates, and a massive fireball instantly swallows the entire frame. A terrifying shockwave tears through everything, turning the carriage into ruins as smoke and fire spread wildly. As the smoke clears, the real Professor Ludger lies in a pool of blood, groaning in pain, mortally wounded by the devastating blast. The protagonist barely survives, but seeing the collapsing carriage and his dying companion, uncontrollable rage ignites in his eyes. Through the storm, the train shudders violently. The real Ludger clutches his face, body screaming in agony as the structure collapses. A fortune spent, a life's work at stake. His eyes fill with regret as a deafening rip signals the end of his ambitions. Surveying the mess, he rubs his temples, cursing his luck. Why does absolute disaster follow wherever I go? Flashback to the flames. He's worn many masks. Machiavelli was just one alias in a past filled with excruciating pain. While the enemy celebrated in a drunken stupor, he slipped away, assumed a new identity, and boarded the train to the capital. He thought he was in the clear, but fate had other plans. A heavy sigh escapes him, he just can't catch a break. Back in the wreckage, glass crunches underfoot. Standing amidst the debris, he asks the universe again, is this a joke? He stares down at the real Ludger's corpse, eyes cold and mocking. Rest in peace. Who knew your journey would end like this? This was no ordinary robbery. The defense spells were shattered. Suddenly, a panicked conductor rushes in. Sir, are you all right? The conductor claims bandits are targeting the first car and urges him to move back. He plays along, but his suspicion is already piqued. While the conductor babbles on, he strikes. A brutal blow from behind sends the acting traitor smashing to the floor. Pinning him down, he sneers. Breaching defenses in this terrain? Did you really think I'd believe this was just bandits? Impossible without an insider. His deduction cuts deep, and terror floods the conductor's eyes behind his trembling glasses. A blade presses against his throat. Won't talk. Fine. His eyes go cold, he has no patience for silence. As he marches the prisoner, a sharp mechanical click echoes. His pupils dilate. Wait. I know that sound. Before he can react, bullets spray the corridor. Fabric tears and sparks fly as the sudden ambush slams into him. Dust settles. The conductor is down, but he stands unscathed. The masked gunman frees in shock. How is anyone still alive? Staring down the barrels in the biting snow, his gaze is colder than ice. The killers scream, finish him. Triggers pull, but only useless clicks follow. Panic sets in as the killers realize they've messed with the wrong man. A gear-like sigil ignites in his hand, reality warping magic. He's a mage, they scream, but it's already too late. The silver-haired professor blocks the massive energy vortex with a wave of his hand. His eyes widen in genuine surprise, a counterspell. These aren't just ordinary thugs. Surrounded by gunmen and crackling lightning, the thugs think they have him cornered. They sneer, promising a painless death, completely unaware of who they're actually threatening. While the thugs try to gauge his power level, the professor ignores them completely. He turns his back, staring out the window to calculate the explosion time and train location. Ice cold. Without hesitation, he smashes through the window and jumps. The masked leader screams in disbelief, ordering his men to check, stunned that anyone would leap from a speeding train. The thugs scan the tracks and trees, confused by his disappearance. Suddenly, a blade strikes from the shadows. One searcher gets stabbed mid-sentence before he even realizes what hit him. He's above us! Panic spreads as they look up to see him standing on the roof. They're baffled. How could anyone keep up with a speeding train? But the leader screams at them to pursue. The professor sprints across the roof, unfazed by the wind. Realizing they're up against a powerful mage, the thugs split up, firing wildly in a desperate attempt to slow him down. Clicking his tongue in annoyance, he dashes toward the caboose. The thugs yell to intercept him, but he's too fast, his gloved hand already gripping the door handle to make his move. Boom! It wasn't an escape, it was a trap. An explosion blasts the pursuers back. Coughing in the smoke, they can't believe he had time to rig explosives while running. The masked leader is shaken. This isn't how mages fight. The brutal efficiency that traps this guy fights like a veteran hunter or a ruthless mercenary, not a professor. Before they can react, metal screeches and snaps. He's physically disconnecting the train cars. He plans to leave them stranded on the detached section while he speeds away. Too late, they realize he never intended to fight them head-on. With a sudden burst of speed, the professor accelerates, widening the gap before they can do anything. To make matters worse, the tracks ahead are broken. Through the pouring rain, The severed rails loom closer. The train is hurtling straight toward a catastrophic derailment. Damn it, we lost him. The thug slams the wall, swearing to hunt him down. But his threat is cut short as the entire train shudders violently. The crash is starting. Just before impact, a massive surge of mana erupts. Blinded by the light, the terrified thugs scream in confusion, overwhelmed by the sheer intensity of the power flooding the train. It's the professor. He stands amidst a storm of golden gears and clockwork, casting a spell with surgical precision. This isn't normal magic. He's rewriting reality right in front of them. Gold light explodes outward, knocking the thugs flat on their backs. Overwhelmed and defeated, they can only wonder if this devastating power was just another part of his trap. Fight? Forget it. The remaining thugs are terrified. Panic takes over as they scramble to escape, screaming at each other to run for their lives. Too late. A blur of motion cuts off their escape. With a swift swipe of a gloved hand, the hunter closes and there's no running from this. Dust settles over the wreckage. Bodies litter the floor. The silver-haired professor stands tall amidst the chaos, looking down at the defeated thugs with a chillingly calm gaze. Is it over? Amidst the ruins, the defeated man with a rotting face screams in despair, "Why us?" Ludger stares him down, eyes cold as ice. You dare talk to me about conscience? Even at death's door, the villain mocks Ludger for being insane. Ludger doesn't flinch, shooting back. Make no mistake, you people tried to kill me first. The enemy keeps bringing up the past, but Ludger's gaze darkens. He planned to disappear quietly, but they just had to force his hand. Ludger finally drops the mask, killing intent exploding. Knowing you'd hunt me down, I'll sleep much better once you're dead. The man freezes in pure terror. Crack! A massive ice crystal spikes through the enemy's skull. Ludger stands over the bloodstains, calmly watching the end. Just as he finishes, a knight lands with a heavy thud. Ludger instantly suppresses his aura, switching to an innocent face. Are you alright? The cold steel knights finally arrive. Vice Captain Veronica stands tall, white eagles circling behind her, confidently announcing they are taking control. Flashback to the heat of battle. Aiden, the blue-haired student, instantly deploys a magic shield to block the sudden hail of bullets. Instead of retreating, he dashes forward with the shield. The gunmen are stunned, freezing up as he rushes right into their faces. Boom! Aiden slams into the enemy with magical force. The impact is bone-shattering, turning the tide of the battle in an instant. Ludger wraps up his side too. He knocks an attacker into the wall, then calmly reports over the comms, "Cabin 2, clear." Good news rolls and the terrorists secure. Veronica listens to the report, a satisfied smile spreading across her face. Great job, lads. The train pulls into Reederbelk Station. The immediate crisis is over, but the scent of suspicion hangs heavy in the air. Inside the cabin, Veronica approaches a brooding Ludger. She gently asks the shocked professor if he's been hurt. Ludger plays it cool, saying he's fine. Veronica takes the chance to introduce herself, officially connecting the vice captain with the undercover professor. Ludger tries to make an excuse to leave, but footsteps interrupt him. Veronica turns sharply, looks like new trouble has arrived. A man in a trench coat flashes a badge. It's Lemlis from the local police. Matching the knight's intensity, he demands to take over the investigation. Lemlis offers thanks, but his tone shifts sharply. His keen eyes drill into the report. Didn't these gunmen infiltrate a bit too quickly? Veronica realizes he's right. Such tight security breached so easily. There's only one conclusion: an accomplice is on board. The vice captain isn't convinced. She spins around, leaning in dangerously close to test him. You heard that, didn't you? She demands honesty, her eyes piercing through him. He keeps a poker face, but inside, he's sweating bullets. I'm in deep trouble. His papers say Gerard, and they're flawless. But under the magical disguise, he's a fraud, and the cracks are starting to show. Visions of torture, and a bloody noose flash through his mind. Surrounded by knights, running means suicide. The despair is suffocating. And this vice captain? She's infamous for showing no mercy. Her smile isn't friendly, it's predatory. He's cornered. Suddenly, a subordinate bursts in, breathless, clutching the guest log. I got the records. Is this his salvation or his death sentence? The investigator cross-references his ticket with the log. The tension is palpable. Room 403. Everything looks normal. But there's a catch: 2 guests were registered. He immediately puts on a mournful act. The other man, he fell to his death during the explosion. The investigator studies him, and he gulps hard. Then, the tension snaps. Wait. This man isn't a suspect at all. Plot twist. The log proves he was fighting the terrorists before the knights even arrived. He's not a villain. He's a hero. The misunderstanding is cleared. The investigator apologizes profusely. He accepts it with a nod, finally able to breathe again. Then he drops the bomb. Everyone is floored. This mysterious man is the new professor at the prestigious Siren Academy. He practically sparkles. He straightens his coat, dons his top hat, and fully embraces the persona. Elegant, mysterious, and commanding, I am Ludger Cherish. The knights, now guilty, offer a VIP escort. He shuts that down immediately with a polite smile. No need. I'll go alone. They insist, so he hits them with the cold hard truth. Being with knights makes me uncomfortable. A perfect excuse to escape. He bids Veronica a gentlemanly farewell. She watches him leave with newfound respect, clueless that she almost arrested a fugitive. Once he's clear, the cool facade cracks. He screams internally with sheer relief. I did it. I actually survived. He feels a twinge of guilt for the dead professor, but their identical looks and the world's bad camera tech just saved his life. He planned to slip away and forge a new ID, but someone calls out his name. He winces. He's been spotted. No running now. It's Wolford from the academy, here to pick him up with a warm smile. The trap is set. He has no choice but to play the part. Arrival. On the outside, Ludger looks cold as ice, like a ruthless killer, but in reality. The moment the door shuts, the facade cracks. He curls up in panic, trembling with pure despair. Escape? Impossible. He peeks out. The driver is a pro. One wrong move, and he's dead meat. Suffocating dread sets in. His old self is dead. He's just a ghost now. If he vanishes, no one will even care. No backing down. He takes a deep breath, eyes sharpening. If he has to act, he'll play the perfect Ludger Cherish. Stepping out, he's floored. Siren Academy is massive, practically a palace. But there's no time to gawk. He's being taken straight to the boss. Belongings confiscated, he stands before the towering clock tower. The sheer scale feels oppressive, as if the building itself is judging the imposter. Down the endless corridor, he stands alone before the massive gold door. A deep breath. It's do or die. Center stage, Principal Elisa Willow sits high above. Her mysterious smile doesn't reach her eyes, and her gaze cuts like a knife. Interrogated about the attack, Ludger plays it cool. It was nothing. She beams, but the air is thick with tension. Alarm bells ring. She only cares about the Academy's reputation, not lives. She's sharp, dangerous, and watching his every move. Suddenly, she flips the script, flirting and complimenting his looks. A trap? Cold sweat runs down his back as he struggles to hold his poker face. He grabs the contract, mind racing on how to quit and run. 2 years? Yeah, right. He plans to grab the cash and vanish. Then he sees the salary line, and his brain short-circuits. 30 imperial gold coins a month? That's an astronomical fortune. Jackpot. He fights the urge to grin like a maniac, heart pounding. Danger? Who cares about danger with that kind of money on the table? Wait, high pay means high pressure. Teaching geniuses. Can he handle it? He glances at the contract again. For that cash? He's all in. Acting? That's his specialty. Fraud, bluffing, setting the mood. He's a pro. If he needs to play the professor, he'll own the role. The deal is sealed. Hands clasped tight. The 2-year gamble for freedom, and a mountain of gold, officially begins. Night falls under a blue moon. In this academy of secrets, the undercover professor has taken his post. Let the games begin. Sitting on a plush sofa in a massive mansion, the protagonist looks out at the night, feeling overwhelmed. 3 weeks until the semester starts, but seriously, an entire house just for him? He rubs his temples, recalling his past life as an ordinary orphan with no powers, surviving on sheer grit. Who would have thought he'd end up playing a professor at this elite academy? Though he was practically forced into this job, looking at the files, he has to admit Ludger is the perfect cover. From a tiny kingdom, parents dead, completely untraceable. Checking the letters, he realizes the real Ludger had no close friends, only formal contacts. Perfect. No one can blow his cover. He gulps nervously but feels a wave of relief, standing up to get to work. Just as he gets fired up to scout the area, his stomach growls loudly. He hasn't eaten since the train incident. Looking at the moon, he thinks, forget it, I'll start tomorrow. Where's the cafeteria again? Cut to a sunlit patio. He sits there elegantly with a cup of tea, looking deep and mysterious, but internally, he's frantically analyzing the situation. 2 weeks fly by, and prep is going smoothly. Just as he enjoys the peace, distinct footsteps approach from behind. A suspicious figure in a brown cloak creeps up. It's a mysterious girl, whispering that she was worried about his safety. He instantly switches to acting mode, turning with a gentle, calculated smile, as if everything is under control. They sit down, tension rising. Sedina, wearing sunglasses, looks nervous. She mentions the organization is watching his every move and respectfully addresses him as first order. Sipping his tea, his heart skips a beat. It's not a delusion. She's really a contact from Black Dawn. Even inside the academy, he can't escape these lunatics. Discussing the train attack, Sedina stammers it was an accident. He seizes the slip-up, countering, weren't you supposed to send me the intel, aggressively shifting the blame. Despite his tough front, he's panicking internally, sweating bullets. He knows nothing about the plan and has to bluff hard, pretending he's just cross-checking to avoid exposure. To assert dominance, he spins a horrific tale, smiling as he describes grinding a traitor's limbs to feed to dogs. With his cold expression, he looks absolutely psychopathic. Actually, his hand is shaking from nerves, rattling the cup. He thinks, this is bad. But Sedina interprets it as rage and flinches in terror, apologizing profusely. Terrified, Sedina stammers that she came because he was silent for 2 weeks. He cuts her off coldly, questioning her unauthorized action, cranking up the superior officer intimidation. Glaring at her conspicuous cloak, he slams his cup down. Do you want to get caught looking like that? He's establishing authority, but also genuinely afraid her outfit will blow his cover. Watching her tremble, he sighs internally. The real Ludger must have been a monster because this girl is genuinely terrified to her core. Having established control, he asks for numbers. Hearing dozens have infiltrated, he nods with feigned satisfaction. Good. Check complete. Let's move. When Sedina suggests he come to their meeting spot, his eyes turn razor sharp. He stares her down coldly. Are you trying to order me to come to you? Sedina drops to her knees, trembling violently. Standing in the light, looking down on her, he drops a bombshell. I only meet with those on my level or higher, implying he's aiming for zero order status. Flashback to his sheer arrogance. Unless it's an order from zero order. Don't bother him. As he walks away cold, the man left behind can only curse under his breath, sweating bullets. Ludger's blood runs cold. He thought this was just a high rank, but the guy was a lunatic. Assassinations inside the academy? Conspiring with traitors? This mission is absolute suicide. He tries to bail immediately, but a voice from behind calls out. Wait! Ludger freezes, heart skipping a beat. Sweat trickles down his forehead. Did he just blow his cover? The contact sneers. And how exactly will you call us? Ludger is struck dumb. He missed the most basic detail. His mind goes blank. He is absolutely screwed. He bluffs with a haughty. Do I have to spell it out for you? And it actually works. Escaping with his life, Ludger looks at the sky, ready to drop to his knees and weep tears of joy. Back in his room, Ludger goes through the files and freezes. Ruined noble? No family? It's all fake. This, youngest professor, identity was a perfectly fabricated shell created solely for infiltration. He rips off his sunglasses, eyes cold as ice. No wonder the hiring conditions were perfect. It was a setup from the start. The real Ludger could never have entered the academy without this fabricated identity. The innocent-looking letters on the table? All encrypted intelligence. Ludger clutches his head in agony, feeling the walls close in. He didn't just get a job. He walked into a lion's den. He is so dead. He collapses on the rug, despairing. Why did he pick a walking time bomb as his new identity? But survival instinct kicks in. He drags himself up and forces his brain to crack these damn codes. He finally cracks it, and the orders are simple but deadly. Infiltrate, gain trust, wait for the next command. Ludger rests his chin on his hand, exhausted. He's not just teaching, he's answering to a terrorist organization. His fist clenches. Something doesn't add up. Why would a high-ranking executive of a secret society die like a nobody in a train attack? Someone of that level should have prioritized their own survival above all else. Forget it, no point arguing with the dead. The good news is, the real guy is cold, which means one less person to blow his cover. Neither the academy nor the secret organization knows the truth for now. Flashback to the meeting. Thank God those cultists were talkative. The hierarchy is strict, 0 to 3rd order. He knows nothing about the leader. 0. But just knowing the structure is a massive survival advantage. Priority number 1, identify the other, 1st order, executives. If he runs into an old acquaintance, he'll be exposed instantly. Ludger's eyes darken. His only strategy right now is to pray he stays undetected. Stuck in the middle? Fine, he'll play both sides. Use the academy to purge the organization while leaking intel to both parties. Ludger decides to walk the tightrope between these massive powers. It's playing with fire, but it's his only way out. He lets out a long breath, wiping the cold sweat. The days ahead won't be a walk in the park. Ludger steadies himself, ready to face this hellish game with no save points. Sunlight bathes the magnificent Siren Academy as the opening ceremony begins. This seemingly holy ivory tower is the battlefield where Ludger must now survive. The auditorium is packed with students, the air buzzing with youthful energy. Whispers fill the room as everyone waits for the ceremony to start. The biggest gossip is about the new hire. New professor for materialization? Teaching 2nd year straight away? Must be a big shot. Everyone's guessing who this mystery replacement is. Only Flora, the blue-haired noble, looks unimpressed. The blonde girl beside her teases. They're talking about you, right? Since you chased the last professor away. Flora just shrugs it off. The guy was incompetent, not her fault. Students gossip about the new professor's military past, but blue-haired Flora just smirks. She drops the bomb with a confident smile. He's just from a ruined family. Flora laughs off the class, convinced it'll be an easy pass. Suddenly, heavy footsteps echo. A dark figure strides toward the light, silencing the air with his sheer presence. Boots hit the platform, followed by a thunderous bang! He slams his hand on the podium, staring them down coldly. I'm your new professor, Ludger Cherish. One sharp glance sends shivers down their spines. Students gulp and flinch in fear. Hands behind his back, Ludger calmly announces. We are still in the course correction period. He announces the class will focus on practical application and is open to first years. The room erupts in whispers until he turns his head and cuts through the noise. Quiet! He assures them standards won't drop, but Flora isn't buying it. She raises her hand, challenging him directly. Why allow first-year students in your lecture? Ludger recognizes the troublemaker, but insists on equal education. Flora scoffs, firing back with a smirk. If you don't explain properly, it's just boring. Telling us later isn't fun. Flora clenches her jaw in frustration. Ludger ignores her, delivering a final warning. Don't think this is an easy A. Get complacent, and I'll make you regret it. While looking imposing, Ludger is internally screaming. Please don't come! He's sweating, hoping his harsh act scares off the students, so he can have an easier time. The students are already convinced he's a secret military elite or a powerful mage. When he asks for questions, the room falls dead silent. Everyone is too intimidated to speak. Students are dying to ask questions, but are too scared to move. Ludger sees their hesitation, gives a confident smirk, and abruptly ends the session. Out in the hall, Ludger's shoulders drop. He's actually disappointed. He hoped for some casual questions, but his scary act worked a little too well. He starts spiraling. Did I go too hard? Are they ignoring me? Ludger rubs his chin, trapped in a cycle of anxiety and second-guessing his own performance. Students in the hall freeze or scramble away the moment they see him. The air is thick with fear, leaving Ludger standing in an awkward, terrified silence. Lost in thought, Ludger is startled by a cheerful voice. He spins around to find a pink-haired professor smiling and waving at him. The new professor, Selena, radiates bubbly energy. Ludger asks politely what she needs, but she suddenly gets shy and fidgety. After all that hesitation, she just asks, Have you had lunch? Ludger's stomach growls loudly, betraying him. He screams internally. Why is today such a mess? The scene shifts to the sunny outdoors. Two more colleagues approach, a cheerful mustached man, Brino, and an elegant woman, Merit, introducing themselves. Ludger switches back to his cool persona for the introductions. Someone nearby is secretly swooning, thinking he's even more handsome in person. But it's not all friendly. A colleague whispers a warning, pointing at the blue-haired man with glasses. That's Chris Benamore. He's a noble, not like us commoners. The new professors take the stage, but eyes in the shadows are watching. Competence aside, The glowing gaze from the dark suggests a storm is coming. Suspicion grows in the shadows about a hidden First Order. While Ludger stresses over vague intel, the arrogant noble scoffs, desperate to leave this filth. The noble sneers at the commoners, but Ludger isn't having it. His eyes turn to ice as he claps back. Don't act tough, you washed-up aristocrat. The blue-haired professor fumes at the insult, but Ludger stays cool. The group decides to ignore the jerk and go eat without him. Staring at the Grand Academy, Ludger feels a strange relief. Even for an undercover spy, having dinner companions is a small comfort. Night falls, silencing the academy. But inside, the floor erupts and blue light magic is stirring in the dark. The magic circle glows as students dig into his past. Youngest fourth circle mage. Former military. His resume is absolutely terrifying. A cryptid hunter too? The legend grows. The purple-haired spy clenches her fist, swearing not to fail her organization boss in class. Someone is frantically pushing for sign-ups. The students, dazzled by the credentials, feel their curiosity winning over their fear. The big day is here. Deciding there's nothing to lose, a student takes a deep breath and steps onto the wooden floor. Ludger strides down the hall, smugly thinking his plan worked. He painted his class as a death trap, sure that he scared everyone away. He slides the door open and freezes. Instead of an empty room, he faces a sea of students packing every single seat. Ludger looks composed, but internally he's screaming. What the hell? Why is it full? Even the seniors are here, and panic sets in. Students admire his military aura, but Ludger is paranoid. He clenches his fist, convinced someone set him up to fail. Staring at the elite crowd, it hits him. He tried to scare them off, but accidentally triggered the competitive pride of these geniuses. No choice but to play the part. He suppresses a sigh, switches to his cold persona, and announces, I am Professor Ludger Cherish. A bold student challenges him, all 4 specialties? Ludger flinches for a split second, then shuts him down with a sharp glare. He lays down the law, interrupt, and you lose points. Then, turning his back, he drops the bomb, yes. I will teach all 4 specialties. Disbelief ripples through the room. Teaching 2 is rare, but all 4? The students tap their desks, convinced he's just full of hot air. Facing their doubt, Ludger smirks. He raises his wand and unleashes a perfect rolling flame, ready to crush their skepticism with raw power. To silence the class, Ludger conjures a massive spiral of fire and drops a bomb. He can cast spells 3 times faster. The classroom erupts in whispers. Even Flora, the genius, shakes her head. It's theoretically impossible without changing the formula. Flora narrows her eyes. If he's relying on cheat items like scrolls, she's going to be severely disappointed. A red-haired student jumps up, demanding to know the logic behind it. Ludger remains completely unfazed. Someone asks if he tweaked the formula. Ludger shuts that down instantly. Tampering with the code makes it a different spell entirely. Flora can't take it anymore. She speaks up, challenging him directly. Professor, that's impossible. The room goes silent. She introduces herself as a Lumos. Ludger stares her down and throws her own words back at her. That's impossible. Students whisper that the new prof is toast for messing with a noble. But Ludger calmly asks her to explain her logic. Flora argues that he's claiming a miracle. Ludger's gaze hardens. Just because she can't believe it, doesn't mean he can't do it. Ludger turns to the class, lecture mode on. Magic has been stagnant for too long. It needs to evolve or be obsolete. He declares he'll be the pioneer of this new era. Flora fumes silently. The sheer arrogance of this man. To prove a point, Ludger puts her on the spot. How long does it take a standard mage to cast a flame spell? Flora smirks. 5 seconds for amateurs, but I'm faster. Ludger smiles. Fine. Come down and prove it. The provocation works. Without hesitation, she steps up to the podium, ready to humiliate the professor. She touches the floor boom. A massive swirl of fire erupts instantly. Pure talent on display. The class gasps at the Lumos Bloodlines' power. Ludger checks his stopwatch like a robot. For 0.78 seconds. Not bad. Flora expects praise, but Ludger cuts her down cold. The world record is 4.41. You are way too slow. She tries to defend herself, but he interrupts. Even the world record is agonizingly slow by his standards. Watch closely. Ludger raises his wand. Flora's eyes widen in shock. He's using a completely different formula. Ludger waves his hand, and a massive blaze spell erupts instantly, no chanting required. The class is stunned into silence. Even the cynical student is overwhelmed by the sheer pressure. The classroom erupts in chaos. What just happened? In an instant, the genius girl Flora turns pale. She realizes there was no build-up. This wasn't just normal fire magic. Ludger remains icy calm, scanning the room. Did you catch that? I'll show you again. With a snap of his fingers, another terrifying explosion blasts through the air. Staring at the destructive energy in Ludger's palm, the student's eyes changed out turns into pure fear and awe. Even Flora is forced into deep self-reflection. Ludger checks his pocket watch, unsatisfied. 0.24 seconds. Still too slow. To the students, it was instant, but he knows he didn't use the textbook spell at all. Facing the confused students, he drops a complex theory. This is a technique for the technique. Like inputting data to get an immediate result, a blueprint. He translates magic into programmer logic. The mage is hardware, mana is data, and the technique is the program. This unheard of theory is rewriting their understanding of magic. I call it source code. Flora is dumbfounded. She's never heard of this. Before she can recover, Ludger's gaze turns icy. Now, let's discuss how you rudely interrupted my class. Ludger presses on. You just couldn't stand encountering knowledge you didn't understand, so you challenged my authority, correct? Flora grits her teeth and admits defeat, awaiting her punishment. 10 penalty points. The verdict drops, and the class gasps. The perfect heiress of the Lumos family has actually received a penalty for the first time. The humiliation is real. Flora turns to storm off, fists clenched tight enough to break. Suddenly, Ludger pivots. However, the fireball technique you demonstrated was absolute perfection. Fair is fair. 10 points awarded. Ludger offers a crumb of praise from his high horse. Flora's emotions are whiplashed. She broke even, but her thank you is forced through gritted teeth. The tension finally breaks, and the class sighs in relief. Flora instantly plasters on a professional fake smile for her concerned friend. I'm fine, really. Her friend buys the act, unaware that under the desk, Flora's hands are still trembling. The proud genius's ego has been completely crushed today. Ludger adjusts his coat and drops the final hook. Only those who can keep up will be taught the source code. Instantly, everyone's eyes shift, filled with ambition and hunger. No matter how weird or dangerous this professor seems, in the face of absolute power and new knowledge, the student's doubt turns into fanatical admiration. He's incredible. As the clock strikes 12, Ludger dismisses the class right on time. The students feel incredibly lucky just to be sitting in this academy for elites and geniuses. Ludger leaves with style, leaving a trail of praise behind him. Only one noble student in the corner scoffs. Why is everyone so amazed by a cheap trick like that? He immediately turns to mock a commoner student, dripping with superiority. Too bad Ludger, the real powerhouse, doesn't even bat an eye. This level of provocation isn't even worth closing his book for. And just like that, the fake professor establishes his dominance with pure skill in his very first class. In this dangerous academy, the show is just getting started. The atmosphere shifts. A blonde noble student towers over a commoner, his eyes filled with disdain as he looks for a fight. The glasses boy panics, but the noble screams about his title. Suddenly, a whisper cuts through. Wait, that backwater baron? Amidst the chaos, Aiden, the blue-haired student, steps down calmly, hands in pockets, looking completely unfazed. The noble sneers about commoners ruining the school. Aiden rolls his eyes, thinking the real problem is letting in idiot nobles. The noble draws his weapon, threatening to make them pay. Aiden doesn't flinch, coldly daring him. Go ahead. Try it. Aiden steps forward, eyes intense. The noble hesitates, citing school rules, but Aiden shuts him down instantly with a cold fact. Realizing everyone is watching, the noble turns red. He grinds his teeth, spits out a vague threat, and storms off in humiliation. Leo rushes over to say thanks. Aiden brushes him off coldly, saying gratitude disgusts him, keeping his distance. Aiden tries to leave, but Leo follows like a puppy. Just as Aiden gets annoyed, he notices the textbook in Leo's hand. Turns out they have the same class. Seeing Leo's naive face, Aiden sighs and warns him to stop acting like such a country bumpkin. He warns Leo to smarten up if he wants to survive here, especially around dangerous second years like Flora Lumos. Aiden describes Flora as bad news. Then he drops another name, the third princess of the empire, Arender. Royal blood means trouble for commoners. Finally, Aiden lowers his voice to mention the most dangerous name, Frudenwalberg. He's from a duke's family and views commoners as insects. Worse, the guy they just fought is one of his minions. They're already targets. While Leo trembles with fear, Aiden seems amused. But as they leave, a shadowy figure watches them, smirking in the dark. Meanwhile, Ludger walks down the hall. The undercover professor is surprisingly in a good mood, pleased with his performance. This world mirrors the 19th century. Magic exists, but science lags. He combined coding with magic, and the student's reaction was explosive. The source code bluff worked perfectly. But knowing he only has third circle mana, he knows he must stay cautious to keep his cover. He opens the heavy door to his private office, expecting solitude. Instead, he finds a silver-haired woman waiting inside. It's the principal. She welcomes him with a warm smile. Ludger freezes, sweating nervously so much for his private space. The atmosphere in the office is thick with tension. While Principal Elisa lounges comfortably, Ludger sits stiff as a board, wondering if this friendly chat is actually a trap. Amused by his stiffness, Elisa leans in with a teasing smile. Their eyes lock, and Ludger feels a jolt not of romance, but of pure, adrenaline-fueled panic. Elisa casually drops a bomb. You're the last one I visited. Ludger breaks into a cold sweat. It's like the proctor standing right next to your desk during a test. Ludger's mind races. Why him? Why last? Does the all-knowing principal already know he's an imposter? Inside, he's screaming unfair, but outside, he maintains a poker face, calmly discussing class structures. The life of an undercover agent, internal panic, external ice. Elisa shifts gears, mentioning the problem students and the imperial princess. It sounds like small talk, but it's a warning. Watch your step with these kids. Warning delivered, she rises with a dazzling smile, saying she expects great things. It's not encouragement, it's pressure wrapped in politeness. Ludger politely offers tea, but Elisa declines and slips out. As the door clicks shut, the suffocating tension finally breaks, leaving him alone in the silence. Outside, the vibe shifts instantly. The smile drops from Elisa's face as the old professor, Wolford, steps up. This wasn't a chat, it was a vetting process. In an academy full of secrets, no one is safe. The real game is just beginning. Walking down the corridor, the two dissect the meeting. Wolford adjusts his monocle, admitting he secretly tested Ludger, but the results were unexpected. The old fox used his bewitching eye twice, and Ludger didn't even blink. He completely shrugged off the mental magic like it was nothing. Wolford concludes that Ludger resisted through sheer willpower alone. He calls him fascinating, a mark of respect for his mental fortitude. Elisa, however, is thinking deeper. She suspects the train attack was a cover-up to swap someone in. Her intuition is dangerously close to the truth. They share a knowing laugh. They don't trust Ludger yet, but they acknowledge his power. It's a calculation made by two very dangerous people. The verdict: keep watching him. For Ludger, that means he's safe for now, but strictly under surveillance. Back in his room, Ludger collapses on the sofa, the mask finally slipping. He knows that wasn't a visit, it was an interrogation. Trying to distract himself, he flips through student files and spots the noble girl from earlier. He worries her powerful family might pressure him over the incident. He reassures himself he gave her points as a peace offering, so he should be clear. Then, another file catches his eye. A kid with glasses and irregular magic. Ludger stares at the photo. The face is incredibly familiar. It's on the tip of his tongue. Ludger sits in his office, calculating his moves. The principal is still testing him. If the distrust grows, should he actually align with the secret society? Paranoia sets in. That student knew the professor's real face but accepted his new look. If his cover is blown, the consequences will be fatal. A knock interrupts his spiraling thoughts. A student delivers a note. It's his turn for night patrol. No choice. Ludger pushes aside his conspiracy theories and heads out into the night, looking utterly exhausted. The night seems quiet, but something is off at the training grounds. Students are gathering, and the atmosphere is tense. Conflict erupts. A blonde noble demands someone leave, but the other student stands her ground, insisting the space is for everyone. The noble mocks the filthy commoner. The silver-haired girl cites school equality rules, but to the elite, those rules are a joke. Lackeys jeer as the silver-haired girl is surrounded. Helpless and humiliated, she's cornered into a forced apology. The girl tries to walk away, but ignoring the noble triggers a rage. Magic crackles dangerously as she prepares to attack. She snaps. unleashing a powerful magic blast right at the girl's back, leaving bystanders frozen in shock. The shockwave hits. The silver-haired girl is knocked to the ground, turning back in terror as the blast closes in. Suddenly, a massive bolt of blue lightning intercepts the attack. The smoke clears. Someone has intervened. Ludger steps out, expression dark. He publicly reprimands the noble, using the training ground for brawls? Is this how nobility acts? Students recognize the infamous professor. Ludger doesn't hold back. If this isn't resolved properly, there will be consequences. The noble claims it's her right, but Ludger cuts her off. In this academy, there are no ranks, only students. The noble is furious, mentally cursing Ludger as fallen trash, but she has no choice but to obey his command. Suddenly, a terrifying presence descends. A woman in black appears, and the arrogant noble turns pale with fear. She turns her head coldly. What did you just say? The temperature in the room drops to freezing. Things just got serious. A high-ranking figure steps in, leaving everyone's fate hanging in the balance. The powerful figure steps closer. The oppressive aura makes it hard for the students to even breathe. Judgment is coming. The blonde noble sweats, stammering in fear. Ludger advances, boots stomping heavily, and throws the insult right back. Nothing but a fallen noble, am I? Someone screams for Professor Selena. She rushes over, panic in her eyes, as a desperate hand reaches out from the darkness, grasping for salvation. The blonde student clenches his fist, ready to snap, but Professor Selena agrees. Before he can process it, Ludger's cold voice cuts in. Just as you said, I am from a fallen noble family. But Ludger's gaze is razor sharp. I am a professor here. You are challenging my authority. The student freezes, humiliated, before Ludger suddenly shifts tone, offering a condescending mercy. He lets the personal insult slide but slaps the student with disciplinary action for bullying. Ludger then turns to the victim with a gentle smile, a brutal contrast that humiliates the bully further. Leaving the cleanup to Selena, Ludger walks away. The blue-haired student clutches his badge, heart racing. The imposing professor actually remembered his name. He thought he was just an invisible face in the crowd, but in that moment, he started to believe perhaps true equality really does exist in this academy. The silver-haired girl slaps her cheeks to wake up. The professor seemed scary at first, but now she trusts him completely. She swears to ace his class. Cut to the night plaza. A purple-haired student collapses onto a bench, clutching his head, as a throbbing pain pulses through his skull, cold sweat dripping down his face. His hand trembles violently, clutching a small blue vial. His vision blurs and twists, the agony in his body pushing him to the brink of collapse. The medicine kicks in, and the relief is instant. He exhales, terrified as he recalls how his body suddenly failed him at the training ground earlier. He's nothing without this vial. He had to flee the scene, looking like a freak to hide his symptoms. But now reality sinks in. That was his last bottle. He's completely out. Staring at the empty vial, he calculates he can barely last 5 days. Using magic to cope is too risky and might expose him. He's cornered and running out of time. While the student desperately thinks of making contact, the scene shifts to Ludger, listening to the latest gossip with a poker face. A werewolf! Is that what you said? Professor Selena excitedly describes a shadowy figure on the roof, but her colleague scoffs, dismissing it as nothing more than a silly urban legend. Ludger calmly interjects, noting there were eyewitnesses. Selena lights up, asking if he knows the Academy's ghost stories, but Ludger shakes his head with indifference. Selena tries to act cool, but when Ludger compliments her knowledge, she turns beet red. She flails around, frantically denying she's a ghost story nerd. She's totally busted. After calming Selena down, the conversation pivots to academics. Mentioning Ludger's groundbreaking lecture, the professor's eyes light up in unison. The source code! Once he confirms it, the two professors practically turn into fangirls, their faces screaming disbelief. He actually pulled off a magical theory that defies common sense. The pink-haired professor probes, mentioning rumors about his unique magic. Ludger plays it cool, feigning total ignorance. They push for a patent, but Ludger shuts it down instantly. He knows without political backing, the magic tower would just steal his work. Rival professors bully Chris, the tension thick enough to cut. Watching from the shadows, Ludger connects the dots, a werewolf. Under the moonlight, Ludger waits impatiently. His contact is late, so he steps into the shadows to hunt him down. A massive wolf emerges from the darkness and lunges, jaws snapping with lethal speed. They clash violently, the impact shattering the cobblestones, and sending shockwaves through the narrow alley. Ludger stands unfazed, scolding the beast. The wolf picks himself up, chuckling at his failed prank to scare his old partner. The tension melts away. Ludger smiles warmly under the moonlight, greeting his old partner Hans. The reunion is sweet, but the danger isn't over. Something else is lurking in the dark. Hans growls in frustration. He didn't want to turn, he just happened to see a lady holding a dog, and his curse kicked in. It's Hans's bizarre curse. He involuntarily morphs into whatever animal he encounters, even a Pomeranian. Ludger can't help but laugh. Jokes aside, Ludger administers the antidote. Hans shudders as the transformation reverses, finally returning to human form. His hand still trembling from the side effects, Hans pulls himself together. He accepts his partner's new identity, Ludger Cherish. Hans is flabbergasted. Of all the covers, his partner chose to be a professor at the prestigious Siren Academy? It makes no sense. Hans's manic laughter echoes through the empty streets, unable to process the absurdity. Hans thinks it's hilarious until Ludger drops the bomb. He's a high-ranking executive now. The laughter stops dead. This is serious business. Connecting the dots about the shadowy new players, Hans realizes exactly who they're dealing with, the Black Dawn. Ludger warns him about the danger, then takes the delivery. He notices immediately the briefcase hasn't been touched. Hans claims the lock stumped him while popping pills to calm his nerves. He mentions he's 2 days late, but not without reason. Ludger freezes. There were werewolf sightings yesterday, but Hans just arrived. So who or what was the other wolf? A blood-curdling howl tears through the night. The curly-haired man freezes in terror, while Hans stands stone-cold, as if he expected this. Under the massive full moon, a real werewolf stands atop the pillar, its fangs glinting dangerously in the pale light. They duck into the shadows. Curly wants to bolt, but Hans holds him back, watching the beast as his pendant begins to glow. Hans cocks his gun, stunning the terrified Curly. Unfazed, Hans spots something shiny on the werewolf's neck. Reaching for his weapon, Hans coolly reveals his past identity, the monster hunter, Van Helsing. Coat flapping in the wind, the legendary hunter returns. The werewolf senses the threat and turns with a snarl. Without a word, Hans launches himself like a streak of white light, his boots slamming the ground with explosive force. Meanwhile, Ludger locks onto the prey. Spotting the caller, his gaze turns colder and more dangerous than the beast itself. The werewolf howls and lunges, claws slicing the air. Ludger stands his ground, blue magic rippling beneath his boots. Collision! The werewolf attacks with feral rage, but Ludger blocks every blow with his shield, sparks flying in the heated clash. The beast dives for a kill shot. Instead of panicking, Ludger smirks, his magic already spiraling into a counterattack. Boom! The werewolf is slammed into the pavement. Ludger detonates his trap, a burst of colorful energy sealing his dominance. Watching from the door, Curly is stunned as the wolf writhes in agony. Ludger used ultrasound to cripple it, a syringe now ready in his hand. Beast subdued, it's time to find the master. Ludger whistles casually, preparing to administer some special care. Suddenly, guards shout from the distance. The distraction lets the wolf break free, leaving Ludger to curse the terrible timing. He can't let the clue escape. Ludger fires a chain, the hook biting into the wall, as he swings into a high-speed pursuit. Soaring through the city, he refuses to lose the target. Despite the tension, a cute mental image briefly breaks the serious mood. Identity at risk? In this academy of lies, his double life is only just beginning. Cut to the rooftops, guards are scrambling. In the shadows, a figure sprints through the night, a black spirit fox trailing close behind. The fox lands with a bone-shaking thud. The protagonist crouches low, continuing his silent hunt through the concrete jungle. On the dark platform, Ludger rises. He only intended to teach a lesson, but now, he's left with no choice but to end it. A massive werewolf growls from the shadows and lunges. Ludger stands his ground, completely unfazed by the beast. Before the claws can reach him, Ludger's blade whirls into action. A flash of steel slices straight for the beast's neck. The beast survives, but Ludger has control. He praises its instincts while blue magic energy begins to surge around his blade. Boom! Blue lightning strikes down with the sword. The massive shockwave blasts the monster, leaving it howling in pain. While the beast reels, Ludger charges again. But in the distance, a shadowy figure is seen fleeing across the rooftops. No time to chase. The werewolf is still raging. Ludger narrows his eyes and lunges, ready to end this fight for good. Blade meets claw in a shower of sparks. The beast is tough, fighting back ferociously despite its heavy wounds. Playtime is over. Ludger unleashes full power. A massive slash cuts through the night sky, splitting the werewolf in two. Meanwhile, a man with glasses flees through an alley, panting about a close call, until he runs smack into something. Thud. A giant wolf head lands at his feet, making him scream. It's just his kilted partner playing a twisted prank. The gray-haired partner grins, admitting he wanted to scare him. Examining the corpse, they realize it's not a real monster, but artificial. If it's artificial, the creator is still out there. The purple-haired man looks grim, deciding to stay in the city. The plan must be advanced. To avoid suspicion, the purple-haired man can't act directly. He orders his partner to gather intel, while he pulls the strings from the shadows. The partner accepts the mission with confidence. Someone is bold enough to mass-produce werewolves, meaning deep trouble is brewing. The werewolf is dead, but the stench of blood remains. Meanwhile, the news reports that the serial killer is still at large. Next morning, Ludger reads the paper with a heavy frown. 5 more deaths yesterday. The city is gripped by panic. Wait, the timeline is wrong. Ludger freezes. He killed the wolf on Saturday, but people died Sunday? There's more than one. Back at the academy, all seems calm. A colleague waves cheerfully, while students whisper behind his back about the mysterious professor. Whispers mock the fallen noble, but the mood shifts instantly. 2 freshmen were attacked. The bloody claw marks scream wild beast, turning gossip into panic. Rumors harden into facts, and even the faculty is on edge. Silence falls as everyone waits for the principal, the air thick with anticipation. Principal Elisa Willow enters, commanding the room. She doesn't mince words. A mysterious assailant attacked 2 students last night, and the culprit is still at large. The moment she mentions werewolves, Professor Hugo snaps. He shoves his chair back, standing up to publicly ridicule the idea of monsters in their prestigious academy. With a smirk, he dismisses the threat as a mere ghost story, finding it laughable that a werewolf could exist here. The principal tucks her hair back, clearly annoyed by his arrogance. Hugo doubles down, arguing that since the victims are nobles, it can't be a monster. He blames the students instead, his blind arrogance making fists clench in the audience. Elisa shuts him down cold with a single fact. There was a commoner victim, too. That one detail instantly shatters Hugo's elitist theory. Hugo explodes, immediately trying to pin the blame on commoners. Meanwhile, the students smirk, convinced this is just someone playing a sick prank, not a real monster. Ludger watches from the gallery, unimpressed. Instead of solving the crisis, the faculty is tearing itself apart. He realizes this division is a dangerous weakness. While Ludger questions the academy's competence, a tiny disturbance breaks his focus. A mechanical spider lands silently on his shoulder. His reflexes kick in. He snatches it, revealing not a bug, but a mechanical transmitter used by the organization. The message is a nightmare. 3 test subjects have escaped. He must capture or kill them immediately, or his cover as a professor will be blown sky high. Alone in the dark, Ludger nearly cracks. It's not just a mission, it's a death trap. He curses the organization for testing him like this. Rage fades into cold logic. He realizes the organization didn't plan this screw-up either. The enemy is vulnerable, but he's the one left to clean up the mess. He can't afford to wait. If he gets caught, it's game over. Ludger makes a grim decision. He has to hunt down and eliminate the werewolves before the academy finds them. Meanwhile, Principal Elisa lays down the law. She orders a reluctant Hugo to tighten patrols and punish students if necessary, forcing him to fall in line. The meeting disperses, and Ludger walks alone into the rainy night. He pauses mid-step, sensing something or perhaps finalizing his next move. Cut to a sunny afternoon. Ludger stands in the shade, calling out without even turning around, "Stop hiding and come out." A trembling short-haired girl steps out. Ludger instantly recognizes her as Sedina, his subordinate from the organization, disguised as a student. Sedina is a nervous wreck. Just as Ludger orders her to follow him, she panics and blurts out, "Do you like coffee?" leaving the professor completely baffled. The sunny cafe feels stiflingly tense. Sedina, the nervous subordinate, sweats bullets before finally gathering the courage to ask the forbidden question, "What is your real name?" The professor deflects by stating her full name instead. Sedina taps her foot anxiously, heart racing. Is that not an alias? She steels herself and presses for his real identity. Seeing her probe further, Ludger casually casts a blue soundproofing barrier. When she addresses him as First Order, his expression turns cold. Change the title. Do not use that code name here. Sedina nearly jumps out of her skin and apologizes profusely. Ludger's gaze sharpens as he cuts to the chase. When mentioning the werewolf, her eyes turn fierce. That was caused by one of our affiliates. It turns out a group of exiled mad scientists conducted illegal experiments, and the subjects escaped into the academy sewers. Hearing this, Ludger's expression darkens instantly. Turns out, this mess exists because a guy named Victor borrowed Ludger's name. The professor clenches his fist, eyes filled with regret he only lent his name, yet it caused such chaos. If it's his mess, he'll clean it up. Ludger starts planning, only to be told 2 subjects remain because he unknowingly eliminated 1 2 days ago. Sedina stares in pure awe. Watching the efficient Sedina, Ludger wonders why she's only a Third Order. It must be her noble background causing her to be ostracized by that antisocial organization, like an outcast. The dark organization sees her as a disposable tool. Recalling the recent spatial rifts, Ludger hatches a plan. Perhaps he can use this isolated subordinate to gather more intelligence. Business concluded, Ludger stands up and leaves, his glove tracing a streak of blue light in the air. Sedina scrambles to see him off, still reeling from his imposing presence. Halfway out, the professor turns back. You were much more articulate than last time. Keep it up. An unexpected word of praise, delivered with the gravity of a strict mentor. Left alone, Sedina clenches her fists, eyes welling up. That simple acknowledgement hits hard for someone so used to being ostracized it strikes right at her soul. But Flora, the blue-haired prodigy outside, saw everything. Brows furrowed, she's full of questions. They used high-level soundproofing magic? What exactly is their relationship? By nightfall, posts about Professor Ludger flood the internet, student admiration practically spilling off the screen. Meanwhile, a new storm is quietly brewing in the shadows of the academy. In class the next day, Flora can't focus. Her mind is stuck on the cafe scene. That color and scent of magic were definitely not something an ordinary person could cast. The more she thinks, the fishier it gets. Why the secrecy? Ludger dismisses the class, adding a stern warning, don't wander around at night, or you'll lose points if caught. The moment the professor leaves, students start gossiping about the werewolf. Hearing there's a reward, hot-blooded Aiden's eyes light up, while his bespectacled friend tries in vain to stop him. Just as they argue about the adventure, the classroom door slams shut with a bang. The loud noise startles the 2 troublemakers, nearly killing their plan before it starts. In the hallway, they run into Tessie, the red-haired Sundra. Glasses boy tries to say hi, only to be greeted by a bolt of lightning. It is not a good morning. We have a score to settle. She's still salty about the draw in the magic match and demands a duel. The boys use the dangerous werewolf at night excuse to bail immediately, leaving her totally confused. Tension spikes in the classroom as Tessie demands to know if Glasses is scared. He smiles and admits it instantly, infuriating her. She ups the ante. If he won't fight, they have to catch the werewolf. Tessie sets the rules. First to catch the beast wins. Glasses tries to back out, but Leo accepts immediately. Shocked but determined, Tessie storms off before they can change their minds. Glasses panics, asking why Leo agreed to such madness. Leo shrugs it off, convinced the professors will handle the wolf, and that Tessie is just bluffing. She wouldn't actually do it. Suddenly, Glasses screams from the window Tessie isn't bluffing. Leo looks out in shock. The crazy girl is already downstairs and moving fast. Panic sets in. Tessie is actually regretting her dumb idea, but suddenly crash. The 2 boys smash through a glass door to catch up to her. Now they're all in deep trouble together. Night falls over the Gothic Academy. Under the starry sky, the wind howls, and a mysterious, dangerous tension begins to brew in the darkness. Ludger walks alone through the night, looking grim. Too many people approached him today with hidden agendas, and he ponders a troublesome proposal left hanging. Earlier, a ruined noble tried to bribe Ludger into siding with the noble students. Before the man could finish his pitch, Ludger physically shut him down, leaving him on the floor. Ludger coldly declares that status means nothing within these walls. Refusing to compromise, he turns to leave, ignoring the noble's pleas, only to be interrupted by students. Ludger knows picking a side would blow his cover. With zero patience for the students who just bumped into him, he forcefully yanks them all to the ground. He scares the students off with penalty points, but realizes the problem is bigger. Too many students are out hunting for the bounty. Simple threats won't stop this madness. Since he can't stop the students, he must stop the source. Ludger draws his sword, eyes sharp. The situation is spiraling, so he decides to handle it himself at the sewage plant. He enters the dark, damp sewers. According to intel, this is how the werewolves got in, and this massive pipe is the only one big enough for them. His staff lights up the ground, revealing fresh werewolf tracks. Surprisingly, there are 2 sets of prints, one big, one small, moving in the same direction. Following the tracks to an iron grate, he finds them scattering. Ludger frowns. The chaotic trail suggests the situation is about to get much more complicated. Back on the surface, the massive footprints head straight for the academy. The werewolf is hunting. If he doesn't hurry, students are going to get slaughtered right now. Suddenly, a blood-curdling scream pierces the night. Ludger flinches, abandons the tracks, and sprints full speed toward the source of the scream. Across the street, the massive werewolf lunges at 2 terrified girls. Cornered and helpless, they collapse, watching the deathly claws descend. It looks like the end. Just in time, a blade flashes. Ludger intercepts the attack, blocking it with a burst of fiery energy that blasts the werewolf backward in a violent explosion. The werewolf howls as it's sent flying. Under the moonlight, Ludger stands firm with his sword, shielding the trembling girls a moment of safety, but the fight isn't over. The blonde realizes it's Professor Ludger and freezes. He calls out her full name, and his overwhelming presence instantly silences the 2 students. Before they can react, he coldly announces, 5 penalty points each. The girls are jaw-droppingly shocked by this sudden, harsh turn of events. This is the legendary demon professor. Standing in the dark uniform with a cold gaze, he radiates an intimidating and mysterious aura. He turns to leave, and the blonde snaps, yelling at him for abandoning them. He coldly replies he's just catching curfew breakers, leaving her fuming. He pauses, sighs, and asks to spare the silver-haired girl the points. She apologizes profusely, while the blonde watches, stunned by his sudden kindness. He suddenly cancels all penalties if they leave now. The blonde celebrates, but he cuts it short. Move now or the points come back. Classic Sundra. The celebration is cut short as the ground shakes. Ludger's eyes sharpen, and he spins around just as a massive black wolf bursts from the earth. The beast flees, and Ludger doesn't hesitate. He sprints after it instantly, moving so fast he becomes a blur, leaving the girls behind. He leaps off the high tower without fear, using chains to stick the landing perfectly. The smooth maneuver leaves the blonde staring in awe. The girls watch him leap across rooftops, wondering if it's floating magic, as his silhouette races through the night, hunting the target. Under the heavy night sky, a high-speed rooftop chase officially begins above the castle, igniting the tension instantly. They clash violently, sparks flying. Ludger swings his weapon midair, fighting less like a mage and more like a berserker, shaking the very ground. The werewolf roars upon landing, but Ludger rushes in, blasting at point blank with magic that lights up the surrounding night like day. Another heavy slam. The 2 students watching from below are dumbfounded. The destructive power is unreal. Is that even humanly possible? The blonde asks, is that how a mage fights? As Ludger parries physically while enchanting his weapon, pummeling the wolf relentlessly. Final blow. Blue lightning erupts, smashing the wolf into the wall. Ludger stands amidst the crackling energy, looking absolutely terrifying and cool. As the dust settles, Ludger pants heavily, regretting using so much magic just to maintain his image. He's completely exhausted. He tries to leave to find the other one, but the wolf isn't done. It lunges at him again, with shocking resilience. Ludger knocks it back with a sword swing, but freezes the werewolf, just used a tool to block. It has intelligence. The wolf crashes into the ground. It's not dead yet, but its unnatural behavior sends a chill down Ludger's spine. Something is wrong. The professor moves like lightning, dodging through the debris. Facing the purple glowing beast, he analyzes with cold calculation. This creature uses tools and measures its opponent's strength. It's far too intelligent for a standard werewolf. Meanwhile in the forest, Aiden clutches his head, screaming Tessie's name in desperation. Behind him, an exhausted Leo suggests giving up. AV looked everywhere with no luck. Leo is convinced she went back to the dorms, but Aiden is sweating bullets. He knows Tessie too well. She wouldn't give up on the bet. She's definitely still hunting for the werewolf. Just as Leo agrees to search for 30 more minutes, a blood-curdling scream pierces the night. Their eyes go wide, and they instantly bolt toward the source of the sound. Desperate to help, Aiden sprints blindly and slams hard into a tree. He groans in pain as Leo catches up, breathless from the chase. They find Tessie sitting on the ground. Confused, she claims she never screamed. Before relief can set in, Leo's face goes pale at the sound of a low growl, and he urgently shushes them. Hiding behind the bushes, hearts pounding, they peer into the rainy darkness. Leaves rustle, and a white, furry head emerges. Could this actually be the werewolf? It's just a panting wolf cub. Tessie, eager to win the bet, moves to grab it, but Aiden grabs her arm instantly, warning her not to be reckless. The cub is injured and hidden under leaves. Aiden deduces someone must have helped it, a statement that makes Leo's eyes widen. Is there someone else nearby? Their gaze shifts to reveal a massive, terrifying beast bound in silver chains standing in the darkness. The three students freeze in pure terror, realizing they've stumbled upon a real monster. The beast bares its fangs, drool dripping from its jaws. As it targets Leo, Aiden finds a burst of courage, screaming his friend's name and lunging forward to protect him. The massive claw strikes, sending Leo skidding through the mud. Aiden tries to block but is knocked back, while Tessie screams in realization, it's a real werewolf. Tessa's hands tremble, but for her family's honor, she forces herself to stay calm. With a sharp gaze, she swings her weapon, striking at the beast with desperate determination. Tessie lunges, but Aiden crashes to the ground with a painful cry. Shocked, she freezes and immediately checks on him, panic written all over her face. Turns out Tessie rushed in to save him. Before Aiden can ask why, she declares she couldn't let a friend die. Behind them, the massive wolf collapses with a heavy thud, but the tension remains. The beast is down but not out. Aiden steps forward, sensing something, but his friends scream in terror. What are you doing? It doesn't understand you. The wolf responds with a ferocious roar. The wolf crouches, growling menacingly. Aiden exhales, realizing the beast was just overreacting to protect its cub. He asks his skeptical friends to trust his intuition, despite how crazy it sounds. Aiden steps closer, holding out a glowing blue potion and promising it will help the injured cub. The terrifying beast hesitates, reaching out its massive claw as if accepting the peace offering. But in the split second before contact, instinct takes over. The wolf strikes with explosive force, blasting Aiden away in a burst of energy, his scream piercing the night. As the smoke clears, a twist, the wolf lies convulsing on the ground, bound by golden energy threads. Aiden, shaken but alive, stares in shock. Someone powerful has intervened. Standing high above in the rain, Ludger looks down with a gaze cold as ice. He demands an answer from the reckless students. What are you all doing here right now? Terrified, the students scream and stutter. Ludger cuts through their panic with a sharp order. I'll deal with you later. Get behind me now. Flashback to the chaos. Aiden, the bespectacled student, rushes toward the glowing werewolf instead of fleeing. Don't kill it. It understands us, he screams, courting death. Ludger dismisses the notion as nonsense, but Aiden stands his ground. It's not nonsense. A clash of beliefs erupts in the face of danger. No time to argue. Ludger violently shoves Aiden aside. As the student hits the ground in confusion, the air ahead explodes with magic. Flames roar amidst the rain as Ludger stands between the stunned student and the threat. Aiden realizes that rough shove just saved his life. Danger averted, Ludger doesn't look back. We'll discuss your punishment tomorrow. Go to your dorms. The fire fades, leaving only the cold rain and his command. Back in the dorms, the trio is in despair. Caught red-handed by the terrifying Professor Ludger, they are convinced their expulsion is imminent. The moment of judgment arrives. But it's not just Ludger. The principal enters, radiating elegance. The shock sends the students' anxiety through the roof. She glides in effortlessly. The principal herself means this isn't a normal disciplinary action. Ludger agrees coldly, and the room's temperature drops to freezing. Bracing for the worst, the students are confused when the principal teases Ludger for being too scary. Ludger insists on the gravity of the situation, but the mood shifts. She turns to Aiden. Your behavior was dangerous, so 10 penalty points. Aiden freezes. Just 10? That's barely a slap on the wrist. Plot twist. But for your bravery, I award you 20 points. A net gain? The students are floored. Ludger stands by silently. He clearly approved this. Leaving the room, Aiden pauses and glances back at Ludger. Satisfied now, Professor? His look says he sees right through Ludger's cold mask to the protection underneath. Alone now, the principal drops the act. Who knew you'd ask me to go easy on them? Ludger plays it cool, claiming he just wanted to avoid a fuss. She thanks him sincerely for keeping the students safe before leaving. Ludger sits in silence, his mind drifting back to the dark reality of last night's battle. His memory turns dark. That werewolf, it was bound by golden chains. Not a mark of a beast, but proof of captivity and control. The most revolting part hits him when the magic faded. It didn't reveal a beast's corpse, but patches of human skin and limbs. The sickening truth locks in. They aren't using wolves. They are capturing humans and forcing them to transform. Ludger's eyes burn with cold rage. Episode ends. He may be playing the professor at the academy, but the hunt for the masterminds behind this atrocity is just beginning. Ludger recalls the Sea of Fire, his gaze cold. Since those werewolves hurt people, he had to act, and he has zero regrets. That reason is enough. Watching the necklace-wearing werewolf fall in golden light, Ludger stands by the window, a solitary figure. He pulls out a communication crystal to contact Hans, his tone serious. He needs a favor from his old partner for this mission. Back at the academy, the 3 students are dumbfounded on a bench. No punishment, just reward points. It feels like a dream. But Aiden, the scholarship student, can't smile. He keeps thinking about the chains on that werewolf cub's neck. Something feels wrong. Aiden lowers his voice, theorizing someone is controlling the werewolves. Professor Ludger might have stopped them to guard against that mastermind. The redhead is shocked, but Aiden digs deeper. The professor acted too strangely that night. He must have seen the chains too. Aiden's heart pounds. He suspects the professor hid the truth on purpose, a thought that terrifies even him. The boy in glasses immediately objects, defending the professor. But once the seed of doubt is sown, trust begins to shake. The redhead stomps down on their wild theories. The professor might act cold, but he protected them, and that's what matters. Scolded by her, the boys realize they were overthinking. The tension breaks, their stomachs growl, and they decide to grab lunch. The boy with glasses stammers, inviting the redhead along, awkwardly claiming it's because they're friends. She blushes, secretly delighted. While she playfully agrees to lunch, the scene cuts sharply to Ludger's desk, piled high with investigation documents. Hans's intel is solid. The missing people were taken to a nearby abandoned factory. Those burly men are the key. Confirming a family of 3 is among the victims, Ludger's gaze hardens. He cuts the comms, ready to pay that hellhole a visit. The abandoned factory looms in the dead of night. 2 guards on the balcony grumble, cursing the trouble caused by that runaway boy. Turns out the kid reacted badly to the drugs, and the parents snapped seeing him transform. They hired a cleaner to fix this mess. Just as they're venting, heavy footsteps echo. The guards flinch, hair standing on end. Before they can react, bang. A clean headshot drops them both, their bodies tumbling off the balcony. Through the smoke, Ludger steps over the bodies. Under the hood, his blue eyes gleam like the Grim Reaper. The judgment begins. The duo meets in the shadows. Hans eyes the professor's disguise, teasing him about the outfit while confirming if he's really planning to do this alone. Hans drops the jokes. 40 enemies, armed to the teeth, plus black mages. He points to the sewer. That's their way in. Before they move, Hans turns his back, his voice dropping. He asks the heavy question haunting him. How old was the child from that family? Footsteps echo in the silence. The professor's answer is short and crushing. 7. The weight of it suffocates the air, turning sorrow into silent rage. Inside the hideout, it's not just a base, it's a torture chamber. Screams of agony echo from the darkness as victims face their tormentors. Gunshots ring out. The tormentors are cut down instantly. The cloaked figure steps over the bodies, showing zero mercy to this scum. The professor stands amidst the carnage, but he's being watched. A glowing mechanical bee hovers above the bodies, recording everything. In the control room, the ringleaders stare at their screens. They realize a rat has breached their defenses and he's dangerous. The tattooed boss, controlling the wasp, grins maniacally. He orders a full assault. Send everyone. He wants the intruders dead. Chapter 17 concludes. The preview shows the professor's cold glare. The purge of this twisted organization has only just begun. Chapter 18 begins. The guards frantically pull their triggers, but only hear a dry click. The professor emerges, surrounded by glowing magical gears. Fire! Silence! Realizing guns are useless, the panic-stricken guards draw knives. The professor looks down on them. Gunpowder is meaningless before his magic. Who says a mage can't use a gun? The professor levels his magic-infused revolver, his gaze piercing through the smoke. In the narrow tunnel, the guards scramble backward in terror. Heavy footsteps approach relentlessly. Death is walking towards them. Suddenly, a brute in power armor charges in. Confident in his gear, he swings a massive shock weapon at the professor, laughing maniacally. Big mistake. The professor uses metal magic, turning the suit into a conductor. The brute's own electricity backfires, frying him inside his armor. Boom! The armor explodes. Screaming in agony, the brute is blasted away by his own power, instantly incapacitated. Smoke clears, and the professor stands untouched. He just took out 20 men in one go. Absolute dominance. It's not over. The professor catches the buzzing sound. It's a scout bee from the Vermin brothers. The masterminds are watching. If they want to watch, let's cut the feed. He stomps down, unleashing a shockwave that crushes the mechanical spies into scrap. With a few dull thuds, the scout bees drop dead. Ludger cuts the signal instantly. Now the enemy is flying blind. While they panic about the signal, Varen steps up. The bald enforcer radiates pure menace. This one's trouble. They wait to ambush him, but snap, the lights die. Darkness swallows the room, and Varen realizes instantly, Ludger is behind this. A brutal sucker punch sends Ludger flying. He hits the ground hard, grimacing in pain. Varen closed the gap way too fast. Panic sets in. He's already here. Sweating cold bullets, Ludger grabs a centipede. He needs to make a move, now. He tries to sense through the bug, but Varen is faster. A dark shadow lunges. A lethal strike is coming straight for him. Ludger scrambles back, stunned. This guy isn't just strong, he's casting spells instantly. A war mage with a flame bolt loaded. No cast time. Boom. The explosion hits. Ludger rolls on the ground, screaming as flames engulf his body. Ludger lies burning on a crate, defeated. Varen steps forward coldly, weapon ready to deliver the final mercy kill. A gunshot rings out. The tables turn instantly. A blue-haired knight arrives, eyes sharp with killing intent, leaving the minions stunned. She moves like lightning, smashing into the enemy. He blocks, only to realize with horror her weapon is a giant insect leg. Total brutality. A massive monstrous limb crushes Varen into the floor. The sound of snapping bones echoes through the dark. Varen coughs blood but starts laughing. Crushed and broken, he stares back, not with fear, but with a twisted, sick amusement. Decapitation didn't kill him? Varen's flesh wriggles and reforms. He smirks. He's transcended humanity completely. The monster snaps, moving with blurring speed. Smash! The hooded figure gets knocked back by the sheer force of the impact. A nightmare revealed. The giant insect monster pins him down, screeching about revenge, mandibles ready to tear flesh. Flashback to the train. Chaos reigns as a mechanical beast tears through the carriage. He screams for everyone to run. The memory plays out a gunfight on the rails. The cloaked figure dodges the beast's lunge, firing wildly into its armor. He takes a hit but counters instantly. Magic flares from his chest. A point-blank blast blows the monster's head apart. It's not over. He dives from above, hands glowing with destructive red energy. There's no escaping this impact. Ludger stops holding back, his fist wreathed in golden energy slamming home. Metal buckles with an explosive crash, the heat sizzling against the enemy's armor as sparks fly. Ludger's eyes widen. He took a direct hit and survived? The monster slams into the ground, steam rising from his armor, and mocks him. Want to grill me? You'll need 4-circle magic for that. The attacks keep coming, smashing the laughing monster away. But it's a trick. As the dust settles, only a severed mechanical arm remains. The main body has vanished into thin air. The mechanical scout skitters around, searching in vain. Suddenly, an object tears through the air with a high-pitched whistle, slamming into the ground with a heavy metallic clank. The mechanical monstrosity lunges at the cloaked figure, claws swiping inches from his face. He dodges effortlessly, eyeing the dripping fangs, and sneers. You move just like a fly. Ludger realizes standard magic won't cut it in time. He turns his back, gritting his teeth as his eyes glow blue. He has no choice but to unleash the power he wanted to keep hidden. With no other choice, he decides to end it here. Terrifying golden energy gathers in Ludger's palms. Meanwhile, the enemy shivers, feeling a sudden, bone-chilling drop in temperature. The chill deepens. The accomplice hiding in the shadows pulls his coat tight, complaining about the cold, when he senses something off. Before he can react, a blinding light swallows everything. Boom! A massive pillar of energy tears through the factory roof, lighting up the night sky. This is Ludger's real magic. The destructive power is absolutely jaw-dropping. On the street, Hans scratches his head, watching the sparks drift down. He can't wrap his head around the destruction. Magic is just magic. What's this real nonsense? Dust settles, and Hans asks about the victims. Ludger's eyes darken as he admits he could only offer them a painless death. Behind all this, massive funding must be fueling these werewolf experiments. The mastermind is obvious. Burning with rage, Ludger wastes no words and moves out. Hans tries to stop him, but seeing his resolve, sighs and heads back to the hideout. The scene shifts to a luxurious, empty dining hall. A feast sits untouched. Suddenly, a furious voice booms, followed by the crash of shattering plates. Is this what you call food? It's the manor's owner, Bellbot Rickson, throwing a tantrum. He smashes a plate on a servant, screaming at the trembling staff, calling them worthless waste of his money. The old man stomps his feet in a rage, chasing everyone out. He doesn't care about the test subjects' lives. He's actually glad someone disposed of the failures, so he didn't have to. He pushes open a hidden door, greed plastered on his face. Once the drug is perfected, his aging body won't just regain its youth, it will possess power beyond any normal human. Just as he's lost in his fantasy, he senses someone behind him. He spins around, but before he can see who it is, a dark figure lunges like a ghost, pinning him to the floor. Rickson screams for guards, but Ludger has already cast a silence spell. He coldly grips the old bastard's neck, voice dropping low. Save your breath. I have a question for you. Ludger remembers the 7-year-old child turned into a monster. When he was forced to end the child's life, there was no resentment, only a smile of relief. A thank you to his executioner. And for the person who had no choice but to burn them alive. Ludger's eyes glow red, a smile more terrifying than a demon's twisting his face as he stares down at the culprit. How do you think that felt? Huh? Faced with his atrocities, the old man frantically justifies himself, claiming the victims were trash anyway. The protagonist stares coldly, not even bothering to show anger at such delusion. Still babbling about noble sacrifice? The protagonist has heard enough. With a flash of cold steel, he drives the blade into the man's neck, ending the absurdity in blood. The old man dies in shock, blindsided by swift karma. Looking at the corpse, the protagonist feels a hollow chill. The monster truly believed he was righteous until the very end. Under the cover of night, the real performance begins. The codename Arsène Lupin surfaces. This isn't just an execution, but the start of a grand, theatrical deception. The stab was merely the appetizer. Looking down at the struggling Rickson, the protagonist reveals a cruel truth. Even a single drop of this drug turns a man into a mindless beast. What about a full bottle? Bones snap and flesh tears as his body contorts grotesquely. In this agony, he finally tastes the exact despair he inflicted on his victims. In the rain, the noble transforms into a hulking monster. The protagonist watches from the shadows. Revenge is only complete when the tormentor lives through his own hell. A deafening roar shakes the mansion. Panic spreads as guards scramble toward their master's room, unaware of the nightmare waiting behind the door. The door shatters as the massive white beast bursts forth. Terror grips the guards. Screams mix with desperate spells as chaos instantly engulfs the hallway. All-out war. Explosions and magic batter the beast, but its resilience is terrifying. The guards pour every ounce of power they have into the fight just to survive. While chaos reigns at the mansion, the protagonist has already secured the loot at a safe house. Hans stares at the crates, eyes wide with amazement at the haul. No time to chat, the next act awaits. He disappears into the night, leaving with a promise. I'll return with a new identity suitable for the underworld. Standing in the harbor wind, he takes one last look at the city lights. Revenge is complete, but for survival, his path of deception must continue. The next morning, the news explodes. Reporters swarm the scene, cameras flashing as the shocking headline spreads. Rich tycoon Rickson eaten by a monster? Whispers fill the air. Guards supposedly burned the beast for an hour. The rumors of black magic solidify, playing right into the script the protagonist wrote. Suddenly, a hush falls over the crowd. A figure of absolute authority arrives, the Security Bureau's night commander, marching straight toward the restricted zone. Tirena Lion howl! Flashbulbs erupt like lightning. The press goes wild, unaware that underneath that perfect disguise is the protagonist, playing his new role to perfection. Blocked at the gate, Tirena fixes the guard with a cold stare. She doesn't need to shout. Her sheer presence radiates an oppression that makes him sweat bullets. Open it! The command is absolute. The guard flinches and scrambles to obey. This is the power of authority dominating the scene without lifting a finger. Inside, the inspector in charge practically kneels, saluting in panic. The protagonist maintains the icy persona with a dismissive "Nice work," instantly taking control of the entire investigation. Disguised as Commander Tarina, the protagonist storms the scene with overwhelming authority. A cold command to take over sends the local inspectors trembling, forcing them to retreat instantly. Once the coast is clear, the act drops. Sedina, disguised as an aide, sighs in relief and complains about the stress, but the glasses guy immediately scolds her to stay in character. The aide continues his lecture, but the protagonist waves it off as long as no one sees. However, a sharp reminder of their mission snaps Sedina back to attention instantly. Jokes aside, the investigation begins. Surveying the chaos, the protagonist concludes this wasn't just a monster attack. The corrupt noble's death is far too suspicious. The body is charred beyond recognition. Wasting no time on the corpse, the protagonist turns his attention deeper into the room, looking for the real clues. A slightly tilted portrait catches his eye. With a simple slide of the frame, a hidden mechanism triggers, revealing a secret chamber behind the wall. The room is empty, but he deduces the truth. A safe was here until last night. His subordinates are shocked, unaware that he already knows exactly where it went. A wealthy corpse, a rampaging monster, and missing black money. He deliberately connects the dots, leading his team to believe this was a calculated heist and murder. A crime executed with such perfection, leaving no trace. The protagonist gazes out dramatically, ready to plant the name of a convenient scapegoat. He deliberately mutters the name Arsène Lupin, catching his aide's attention. Deflecting the question, he immediately pivots, asking about any recent fires at abandoned factories. Just as expected, a factory burned down last night. With a confident smirk, he orders the team to move out, knowing exactly what clues they will find in the ashes. While his subordinates bicker about acting protocols, a dark shadow looms in the preview. The stakes are rising, and someone is already contemplating murder.